What up, y'all, and welcome to episode 2 of Learn Some Stuff. Thanks to everybody that's watching right now, and thanks to all of you that already watched episode 1 about the Cincinnati Red Stockings and some archaic baseball stories that have been just floating around in my brain. That's the main point of all this, is to get it out somewhere where maybe somebody might find it interesting. Today, we're going to be learning about something that we probably all already learned a little bit about in school, maybe middle school, maybe elementary school. I don't really remember a lot of it, so that's why I wanted to look into it now. It's canals. In the state of Ohio, there were two main canals, one going down the right side of the state. I'll try to map out the state of Ohio for you here, going from Cleveland kind of down to Portsmouth. That was the Ohio and Erie Canal, and then one going down the left side of the state from Toledo or Lake Erie to Toledo down through Cincinnati, called the Miami and Erie Canal. Now, what a lot of people don't know is that the canals are actually responsible for the birth of a lot of cities. Probably the biggest one in Ohio is the city of Akron, that was built for people who were working on the canals to live. Now, the reason the canals were so successful in their era is because they basically made it about a fifth of the cost to ship goods or people down the canal. So it essentially made shipping anything from the East Coast to the Ohio River, which would then lead to the Mississippi River, to what was the entire country at that point, a lot simpler and cheaper of a process. There wasn't really much of a stream on these canals, so if the boat did not have an engine, probably a steam engine at that point, they would have two mules that would walk alongside the boat with kind of ropes tethered to them and tethered to the boat, pulling it gently down the stream, if you will. Now, they actually had a speed limit on the canals. The speed limit was 10 miles per hour. I don't know how that was enforced. I don't know if there was, obviously we didn't have radar technology at that time where, a cop is just sitting there telling the mules to slow down. So I have no idea how that worked. I would love to find out. Wasn't involved in my research for this today. One of the things I found interesting that was made directly from the canal usage was actually ice. So in the wintertime, what they would do is they would block off part of the canal, have it go directly into a flat field where there was basically a wall of mud that was constructed, maybe in a circle or a square. I don't know how they did it, but they would have the water flow into there and then freeze and turn into ice, which they would then pack up and ship off to maybe factories for keeping like meat cold or anything else that needs ice, which is kind of gross when you think about the ice that we drink nowadays, and I'm sitting here eating ice. I would really hope that this didn't at one point become formed because of a wall of mud. But to each his own, things were a lot grosser back in that era, which we'll get into here a little bit later. Now, here in Cincinnati where I am, there are actually things in the city that are still directly tied to the canal's history in our area. One of them mainly being the area over the Rhine. So back in that time, there were a lot of German immigrants that came to the city. Cincinnati does have a large German and Irish history. But with all the Germans coming into the city, there are kind of two different sides to this story. There's one that the Germans nicknamed the neighborhood Over the Rhine as a joke, referring to the Rhine River, and there was a bridge that went over it, and they kind of jokingly referred to it as, oh, that's the Rhine River, this is over the Rhine, because we have this nice bridge here. The other story is that actually Over the Rhine was created as an insult because the canal began to have a sort of a bad reputation to it, and a lot of the people who weren't German immigrants thought the same about the Germans who were coming to live. So they kind of linked the disgusting river to what they thought of the people that lived in that area. Don't take my word for it. I'm kind of just going off of urban legends, urban stories that I've heard on both sides of the creation of the neighborhood's name. The canals were really the main route of transport for goods for the bulk of the 1800s until the railroad came along. As the railroads kind of boomed in popularity, the canal went down along with it. And that's also because, like I said earlier, the canal was kind of getting a bad reputation. They really weren't being cleaned. There wasn't a lot of water filtration at this point. So the water probably started out clean, right as at the base of maybe the Ohio River or Lake Erie. And then as you just keep going through countryside and these small towns where everybody's using the water and not exactly cleaning it, it just gets dirtier and dirtier. So as the canal became less popular for boats and rafts and everything, it actually kind of just became a dumping ground for people to dump their trash. I even saw stories of they would put dead livestock in there. Say if the cow, died of disease, they would just throw the cow in the canal and hope it flows down the river, thinking it would deteriorate over time, or they probably didn't even think about that. They just wanted to get their trash away. And another thing about people just being more gross back then, a lot of people would swim in the canal. I would hope this started when it was cleaner, but I've seen stories of people, after the boats were kind of done traveling on it, it was just, oh, this is our local pool, let's just go swim in the disgusting canal. And if you think about it, there were probably people out swimming with their friends. Oh, just shove this trash aside. Oh, it's a dead animal. Excuse me, I'm trying to swim here. That could not have been clean. That could not have been safe. But then again, people were drinking alcohol as medicine back then. So as transportation of goods kind of died down on the canals, places around the state of Ohio were just left with these big dugout trenches of nothing. So here in Cincinnati, a way they tried to repurpose it was for the since abandoned subway project. They were going to use the dugout spots of land where the canal was to put the subway there, but that also did not work out. So if you hear any stories of anybody here in the Cincinnati area maybe saying, oh, my so-and-so uncle, grandpa used to swim in the canal all the time, it probably sounded cool at first, but now that you know this, it's like... And again, all the intro and outro music for this series I'm making myself right back here on this good old MPK MIDI keyboard here. Don't really know what we're going to go with today. Maybe something with some like flutes or something that fits with the era that the Canals were successful. You're listening to it right now. Let me know what you think. And again, thanks for watching and take care.